The rain had just begun to fall when Ethan Parker pulled his old pickup truck into the parking lot of Maple Ridge Elementary School. Gray clouds covered the afternoon sky, and parents hurried toward the entrance with umbrellas while children laughed as they splashed through tiny puddles. Ethan stayed in the driver's seat for a moment, rubbing his tired eyes before glancing at the worn photograph clipped to the sun visor. It showed him standing beside his late wife, Emily, both smiling as they held their newborn daughter. 6 years had passed since that picture was taken, yet every morning he looked at it before driving anywhere. "I'm trying my best," he whispered to the photo, his voice barely audible over the sound of raindrops tapping against the windshield. Then he stepped out of the truck, straightened his faded blue work shirt, and walked toward the school doors. Inside the hallway, the cheerful noise of children echoed through the building. Bright paintings covered the walls, each one proudly signed with a child's name. Ethan smiled as he spotted his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, racing toward him with a backpack almost as big as she was. She threw her arms around his waist so tightly that he nearly lost his balance. "Daddy, guess what? I got a gold star in reading today." "You did." Ethan knelt beside her with a proud grin. "I knew you could." Her bright green eyes sparkled with excitement. "Mrs. Carter said I read better than anyone in class." "That's because you've been practicing every night." Lily beamed. "Can we celebrate with pancakes tonight?" Ethan laughed softly, even though he already knew the answer. Money was tight. Bills sat unpaid on the kitchen counter. The truck needed repairs, and his construction company had reduced everyone's hours because of slow business. But when Lily smiled like that, every worry seemed smaller. "You know what?" he said. "I think we can make pancakes happen." She squealed with joy and grabbed his hand. As they walked toward the parking lot, Ethan noticed several parents watching him. Some smiled politely. Others whispered to one another. He had grown used to it. In a town as small as Willow Creek, everyone knew everyone else's story. They all knew Ethan's wife had died from a sudden illness. They all knew he had refused to move away, choosing instead to raise Lily in the home they had built together. They also knew he hadn't dated anyone since Emily's funeral. Many people admired him. Others pitied him. A few believed he needed to move on. Ethan ignored the looks. His world revolved around one little girl holding his hand. The drive home was filled with Lily's endless chatter. She talked about her teacher, her best friend Mia, and the tiny caterpillar their class was raising in a jar. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions and laughing at all the right moments. It was the happiest part of his day. Their house sat on the edge of town, surrounded by tall oak trees and an aging white fence that needed fresh paint. It wasn't large or fancy, but it held memories in every room. Emily had chosen the curtains. She had planted the roses by the front porch. She had painted the yellow kitchen herself because she believed every home deserved one room that always felt sunny. After dinner, Lily spread her homework across the table while Ethan washed dishes. The silence between them felt peaceful. "Daddy." "Yeah, sweetheart." "Do you ever miss Mommy?" The question stopped him cold. Every day. Every single day. He dried his hands slowly before sitting beside her. "I miss her all the time." "So do I." He wrapped an arm around her tiny shoulders. "But you know something." "What?" "I think she'd be very proud of you." Lily smiled through watery eyes. "And she'd be proud of you too." Ethan looked away for a moment, fighting the familiar ache in his chest. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, he sat alone on the porch with a cup of coffee. The cool breeze carried the scent of wet grass through the neighborhood. Across the street, lights glowed warmly in other homes where families laughed together. Ethan wasn't jealous. He was simply lonely. Lonely wasn't the same as unhappy. He had accepted that years ago. The next morning began before sunrise. Ethan packed Lily's lunch, braided her hair the way she liked, and drove to the construction site after dropping her at school. The day was long, exhausting, and filled with heavy lifting. By lunchtime, his hands ached, and sweat soaked through his shirt despite the cool weather. During his break, one of his co-workers, Mark, sat beside him. "You ever think about dating again?" Ethan sighed. "There it is." "What?" "The question everyone keeps asking." "I'm serious." "So am I." Mark shrugged. "You're still young." "I'm busy." "No," Mark replied gently. "You're scared." Ethan stared across the construction site without answering. Maybe Mark wasn't entirely wrong. That evening, as Ethan picked Lily up from school again, he noticed several mothers gathered near the playground. They smiled as he walked by. One of them waved enthusiastically. "Hi, Ethan." He smiled politely. "Good afternoon." After he and Lily left, the women continued talking while watching his truck disappear down the road. "He deserves to be happy," one of them whispered. "It's been 6 years. Maybe someone just needs to give him a little push." None of them realized that their casual conversation was about to set events in motion that would change several lives forever. Across town, another woman finished her workday at the public library. Her name was Hannah Brooks. She quietly organized returned books, smiled warmly at elderly visitors, and helped children find stories about dinosaurs and space. Most people remembered her for one thing before anything else. They noticed her size. Hannah had heard every cruel joke imaginable since childhood. She had been laughed at in school cafeterias, ignored at dances, rejected before anyone bothered to know her heart. Yet she never allowed bitterness to define her. Instead, she became the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday, volunteered at the animal shelter every Saturday, and carried extra sandwiches in her bag for anyone who looked hungry. She believed kindness mattered, even when the world didn't return it. As she locked the library doors that evening, she smiled at an elderly man struggling with grocery bags. "May I help you?" His face lit up. "I'd appreciate that." She carried the bags all the way to his apartment without expecting anything in return. People often overlooked Hannah, but those who truly knew her understood something important. She possessed the rare kind of beauty that couldn't be measured by mirrors. Meanwhile, back in Willow Creek, a harmless conversation among a few well-meaning neighbors slowly grew into an idea they believed would change Ethan's life forever. None of them realized that what they were planning would begin with awkward laughter and end with tears that no one in the room would ever forget. The following Saturday arrived with clear blue skies and a warm breeze that carried the scent of fresh-cut grass through Willow Creek. It was the kind of morning that made the small town feel peaceful, yet beneath the calm surface, several people were busy putting the final touches on a plan they believed would change Ethan Parker's life forever. At Rosewood Community Hall, volunteers decorated tables with simple white flowers and handmade centerpieces. Officially, the evening was advertised as a neighborhood appreciation dinner to celebrate local volunteers. Families, teachers, firefighters, and business owners had all been invited. Music would play, children would perform a short concert, and everyone would share a meal together. Unofficially, a handful of well-meaning neighbors had another goal. "We just have to get Ethan to sit at Hannah's table," said Sarah Collins, adjusting one of the flower arrangements. "The rest will happen naturally." Linda smiled. "They're both kind people. Maybe they're exactly what each other needs." "What if Ethan realizes we are setting him up?" "He won't." "And Hannah?" Linda hesitated. "I hope she'll forgive us." Across town, Hannah Brooks was shelving books when her friend Rachel walked into the library carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I brought your favorite." Hannah laughed softly. "You always know when I need caffeine." Rachel leaned against the counter. "So, I have something to ask." Hannah immediately recognized that tone. "What is it?" "There's a community dinner tonight." "I know. I was wondering if you'd come with me." "You hate community dinners." "I do." "So why are you going?" Rachel looked away for a second. "Because I already told them we'd both come." Hannah narrowed her eyes. "You volunteered me without asking." Rachel sighed. "Okay, not exactly." "What does not exactly mean?" "It means—" Rachel rubbed the back of her neck nervously. "There may or may not be someone they want you to meet." Hannah closed the book she was holding. "A blind date." Rachel stayed silent. "Hannah." "No. You haven't even heard." "I said no." Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired. Very tired. Rachel reached across the counter. "I know why you're saying no." "No, you don't." "I think I do." Hannah forced a smile that couldn't hide years of disappointment. "Every time someone tries to set me up, it ends the same way. This isn't like that. They always tell the man about my personality before he sees me." Rachel said nothing. They always say things like, "She's funny," or "She's sweet," or "Give her a chance." Hannah. And then they look at me. The silence that followed felt heavy. I can actually see the moment their expectations disappear. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. It's not your fault. I just hate seeing you alone." Hannah smiled sadly. Being alone isn't the hardest part. What is? Wondering if anyone will ever look at me, instead of looking through me. Rachel hugged her tightly. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Finally, Hannah whispered, "Who is he?" "A single father." "Does he know?" Rachel hesitated just long enough to answer the question without speaking. Hannah nodded slowly. "So, he doesn't." Rachel lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry." Hannah looked toward the library window where children were laughing outside. "I'll come." Rachel blinked. "You will." "But not because I expect anything." "Then why?" "Because maybe someone else at that dinner needs kindness as much as I do." Rachel smiled through her tears. "You really are incredible." "No," Hannah replied gently. "I'm just tired of letting other people's opinions decide where I belong." Meanwhile, Ethan was completely unaware of any of this. His biggest concern that afternoon was convincing Lily to wear the blue dress her grandmother had bought for her birthday. "I don't like it." "You loved it last week." "It has itchy sleeves." "I'll buy you ice cream afterward." Lily crossed her arms dramatically. "2 scoops." Ethan laughed. "You're negotiating now." She nodded proudly. "Chocolate and strawberry." "Deal." As they drove toward the community hall, Lily watched people walking along the sidewalks. "Daddy." "Yeah." "Mrs. Carter says everybody needs a best friend." "I think she's right." "Who's your best friend?" Ethan smiled. "You." Lily giggled. "That doesn't count." "It absolutely counts." "No, it doesn't." "Well then, Grandpa Joe." She laughed even harder. "You need friends your own age." "I'll think about it." When they arrived, the parking lot was already filling with cars. Children ran across the grass while neighbors greeted one another with hugs and handshakes. The moment Ethan stepped inside, Sarah spotted him. "He's here." Linda looked toward the entrance. So is Hannah. On opposite sides of the room stood 2 people who had never met. One carried years of quiet grief. The other carried years of silent rejection. Neither realized that they were being carefully guided toward the same table. Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, can I go see Mia?" "Stay where I can see you." "I promise." She ran off, leaving Ethan standing alone near the refreshments. Almost immediately, Mark appeared beside him. "There you are." "Good turnout." "Come on." "Where?" "We saved you a seat." "I can find my own." "Nope." Mark gently steered him through the crowded room before Ethan could protest. At that exact moment, Rachel was leading Hannah from the opposite direction. When Hannah looked up and saw a handsome man being guided toward the same table, she stopped walking. Her heart sank. She understood immediately. This wasn't just a community dinner. This was the blind date. She almost turned around. Almost. But then she noticed something unexpected. The little girl running across the room accidentally tripped over her own shoe and fell. Before anyone else reacted, Hannah rushed forward. "Oh, sweetheart, are you okay?" It was Lily. She looked up with watery eyes. "My knee hurts." Hannah knelt without hesitation. "It's going to be okay." She gently brushed the dust from Lily's dress and smiled warmly. "There." Lily sniffled. "Better." "A little." "You know what my grandmother used to tell me." "What?" "She said scraped knees are proof you're brave enough to play." Lily smiled. "I like that." "So do I." At that very moment, Ethan reached the scene. "Lily." He knelt beside his daughter. "Are you hurt?" "I'm okay, Daddy." Then she pointed toward Hannah. "She helped me." Ethan looked up. For the first time, their eyes met. There was no dramatic music. No instant romance. Only a quiet moment of gratitude. "Thank you," Ethan said sincerely. Hannah smiled. Anyone would have done the same. But Ethan noticed something many others overlooked. She hadn't rushed to impress anyone. She hadn't looked around to see who was watching. She had simply seen a frightened child, and helped. Before either of them could say another word, Sarah called across the room, "Ethan, Hannah, your table is ready." The two of them exchanged confused glances. Almost simultaneously, they realized exactly what had happened. Someone had arranged this meeting. The room suddenly felt much quieter, and every pair of curious eyes seemed to be watching what Ethan would do next. The room fell silent as every eye turned toward Ethan. He looked around and immediately understood what had happened. His friends, neighbors, and co-workers had arranged the meeting without telling him. For a brief moment, disappointment crossed his face, not because Hannah was standing there, but because someone had tried to make such a personal decision for him. He took a slow breath before speaking. "I wish someone had asked me first," he said calmly. "Not because I'm upset about meeting Hannah, but because no one should ever be treated like a surprise." The room became even quieter. Ethan turned toward Hannah. "I'm sorry if this embarrassed you. You deserved better than to be put in this position." Hannah gave a small smile. "So did you." For a second, they simply looked at each other. There was no awkwardness anymore, only honesty. Lily tugged gently on her father's sleeve. "Daddy." "Yes, sweetheart." "I think she's nice." A few people chuckled softly. Ethan smiled. "So do I." He looked back at Hannah. "If you're still willing, I'd like to have dinner with you, not because someone planned it, but because I genuinely like to get to know you." A tear rolled down Hannah's cheek. "I'd like that too." The tension in the room disappeared. Conversation slowly resumed, but many guests quietly wiped away tears. They had expected Ethan to reject the blind date. Instead, he had defended Hannah's dignity before accepting the opportunity to know her. Throughout dinner, they talked about ordinary things. Hannah shared funny stories from the library. Ethan spoke about construction work and raising Lily. Lily enthusiastically described her dream of becoming a veterinarian. By the end of the evening, they weren't strangers anymore. Over the following weeks, their friendship grew naturally. Sometimes they met for coffee while Lily read books at the library. Other times they volunteered together at the animal shelter. There was no pressure, no pretending, and no rush. Lily quickly grew fond of Hannah. One afternoon she whispered, "Daddy smiles more now." He hadn't even realized it was true. Months later, Ethan stood on the front porch of his house watching Lily and Hannah plant new rose bushes where the old ones had withered. Emily had once said that every spring was proof life could begin again. Ethan looked toward the sky and smiled. Some people thought moving forward meant forgetting the past. He had learned something different. Real love doesn't replace the people we've lost. It honors them by giving us the courage to keep living, keep caring, and keep opening our hearts. 1 year after that unexpected dinner, the entire town gathered once again at the community hall. This time, there were no secret plans, no whispered conversations, no blind dates, only family, friends, laughter, and gratitude. When Ethan stood to thank everyone for supporting him and Lily through the years, he reached for Hannah's hand. "I've learned that kindness is far more powerful than first impressions," he said. "The greatest people you'll ever meet may not look the way you imagined, but they might become the greatest blessing you never expected." The audience rose to their feet in applause. Many remembered the evening when Hannah had walked into that hall feeling invisible. Now she was surrounded by people who truly saw her. And as Lily wrapped her arms around both of them, it became clear that a family isn't defined by how it begins. It's defined by the love, respect, and compassion people choose to give each other every single day. If this story touched your heart, remember this. Never judge someone's worth by their appearance, their past, or the opinions of others. A single act of kindness can change a life forever. And if you enjoy inspiring stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share this story with someone who could use a reminder that kindness always leaves the deepest impression.